Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Cybersecurity Mentoring Group. And this is February ending today. And it's been an interesting year. This is 2026 and we have just completed 2 months. I hope that it's been a good one for you and I hope that you've started your year on a good note. If you haven't, I'm wishing that you will pick things up from today. Welcome to Cybersecurity Mentoring Group, a platform where we share, we learn, and we connect. We've been doing this for a while. We invite professionals to share with us their journey and how to help other people who are about to start that journey. And today also, we have invited another professional to share with us. And thank you for joining us. If we are here and you are not there, it's of no use. And so it's a kind of a beneficial relationship that we are here and also you are there. So let me go through some of the basics before I bring up our speaker for today. So this is just looking back at 2025. We had 26 professionals that we invited, cut across different industries and in different countries, and looking at different topics that I believe will get you started in cybersecurity. So I encourage you to spend some time on our YouTube channel to look at some of the speakers and the topic that piques your interest, so that you can spend some good 1 hour to look at their career thoughts for 2026. Moving forward, yes, also part of what we do in our community is to make sure that we provide people opportunity to learn and opportunity also to exchange, to get knowledge from cybersecurity professionals. So in 2025, we had 3 programs. We looked at cybersecurity operation centers, and we anchored that on the Microsoft Security Operation course. And we spent about 2 months on that program, and it was a good one. It was practical, going through the principles and also the practices of security operations analyst course. We then took a step backward to look at beginner cybersecurity masterclass, because we thought that it is good for people to have the foundation on how to break into cybersecurity. So we had that also for another 2 months. We had about 5 facilitators who took the class through different domains of cybersecurity, like a starter point. And lastly, we closed the year with identity and access management. In fact, in one of our researches, we found out that security operation analyst and identity and access management are the 2 major courses, and the tools that are used in those domain are the 2 major tools that employers are asking for in job adverts. And we thought that it is important that we build a course around those 2 tools. And that's why we embarked on those programs. And you can find some of the, especially for security operations analysts, you can find it also on our YouTube page. And I think also identity and access management that we uploaded. Let me go forward to this year. So 2026, we started in January. In fact, we kicked off the first week in January, and we had beginner cybersecurity masterclass. We had that for a month, and today we just completed application security this morning, and that's also for a month. And thanks to our facilitators, and they've been wonderful. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And so they volunteer their time and spend their time with the candidates to provide them direction regarding the courses. And so today we completed application security course. I took about 8 classes, and 8 classes. We had close to 100 candidates in the course. Of course, some drop off due to some other priorities, but our attendance rate was around 75%. In fact, some actually had over 15 hours of instruction time, because we encourage people to not only to attend, but to attend for the entire class, instead of just logging in and then leave. We take attendance, which is you are present, and then we take the number of hours that people spend in the class. And it was a good interaction, and we believe that people have been provided the foundation to carry on with application security, and we have challenged them to look out for opportunity in application security and see which one they are able to take advantage of. All right. Yes, in coming weeks, in a few weeks, we will be having something I believe that a lot of people who either have tried CISSP or are desiring to attempt it will find very useful. So CISSP Success Story is a program we've packaged around people who have recently passed CISSP to come tell their stories. So we have booked March 19th for that day. We have speakers, which I'm going to talk about later on in the program. Also, March 21st and 28th, for 2 classes, we'll be discussing AI security. Also have a facilitator that has volunteered their time to take us through, because AI is almost the in thing right now, and we want to find out the implications for cybersecurity professionals and where you as a professional should position yourself. Thank you for listening to my announcement, and this is the time we get into the business of the day. So, and some of you that probably, okay, before then, this is just a timeline of the event we have had this year. We've spoken to 4 professionals for the past almost 2 months now, and you can find their recordings on our YouTube channel. So please have some time on the page, and if you find it interesting, you can follow, so that you can get notified whenever we drop the recording of sessions. These sessions also will be recorded and shared on the platform. Okay, so I shared a little about our guest for today. Adenrele was my colleague in InterSwitch, and she's still a lovely person. We had a good time working together, and I reached out to her because I believe she's got something that we can all benefit from, particularly for people who are looking out, either switching industry, getting into cybersecurity, or even switching industry and switching country. And Adenrele has done that successfully. And when I reached out to her, she was generous enough to spend our time with us. And again, because of the kind of person Adenrele is, meticulous to dotting the I's and the T's. We've had also sessions, to just make sure that she is able to address the need of the people in the cybersecurity community. So Adenrele, thank you for honoring us, and welcome to Cybersecurity Mentoring Group.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Makaya. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. I would share my screen and would go from there, if that's okay.
All right. I'll leave you to have the floor now.
Okay, that's fine. But can you help confirm if you can see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it. Yet to be in presentation mode.
Okay.
Yes, it's not in presentation mode.
All right, brilliant. Thank you for this opportunity, and it's good to have you all. I'll be speaking with you today. I'm going to be speaking on the topic switching from industry to consulting cybersecurity. I would introduce myself soon. I've got an agenda for us today just to make sure this session is quite structured. I'll start with introduction, then we'll go into the main topic for today, which is switching from industry to consulting cybersecurity. And this is pretty much me sharing my own tips, things that helped me having relocated from Nigeria to the UK. So we'll spend a bit of time on that one. I've included my LinkedIn profile here should you want to connect with me after this session. I love quotes. I'm a lover of quotes. So I thought I'll put one of my favorite quotes here today, and perhaps that could inspire you too in this phase of life you might be. And last but not the least, we would cover questions and answer. Feel free to use the chat to drop any comments or any question you might have ahead, and then towards the end of the presentation, we'll be able to take care of that. I tend to speak fast sometimes, so if I'm going too fast, please just scream my name and I'll take it slowly with you. Okay, starting with introduction. So this slide, pretty much, I'm going to talk about my experience from Nigeria up until where I am today. So I'm a senior manager in one of the big fours, EY to be precise. I've got over a decade experience in cybersecurity across both information technology as well as operational technology. In terms of education, I started out with a diploma in data processing as well as BSc in physics with electronics. Both I earned from Olabisi Onabanjo University back in Nigeria, and then I did my master's in information technology at Unilag. I'll spend a bit of time in the next line, and that's experience working in industry and consulting. So in industry, that was where I worked in InterSwitch, and that was where I met Mr. Makaya. I spent about 6 years, 4 months at InterSwitch. And I guess it'd be good to touch on the journey before InterSwitch, as many of us would go for NYC after their, BSc. So I did my NYC, I served back in Enugu. And after that, obviously, I needed a job, right? And reaching out to people. But my sister was really, really instrumental in my work career so far. She sent my CV to one of our friends that then sent, my CV to someone else. And I landed my first job. Before InterSwitch, I worked briefly at Ericsson for about 2 months. And after Ericsson, because Ericsson was more of like a contract job, there was no job security as such for me at the time, but it was a good learning ground. So I seized the opportunity. I learned everything I could learn in that time frame, but I was still looking for another job. And there goes my sister again. She was able to send my CV to another friend that happened to have a friend that worked at InterSwitch at the time. And the rest is history. I didn't have any cybersecurity experience when I started out at InterSwitch, but me being me, I'm very keen on learning. I learned very fast, and I pushed myself really hard to, liaise with people that were doing a lot better than me, that had the experience. And InterSwitch gave me that amazing platform to really learn cybersecurity or information security, as you could imagine. So I worked within the information security team, where we were managing, global cybersecurity frameworks like ISO 27001, and InterSwitch being like a fintech and technology company. PCI was in scope, right? We needed to make sure that we are compliant with PCI on a yearly basis. Aside frameworks, I was given the opportunity also to work on several cybersecurity tooling systems across, SIEM, across antivirus and the like. So those were amazing opportunities that I seized at the time. I think after 3 years and a few months in the role, I realized that, okay, I think I'd earned my ISO 27001 at the time, but then I realized that something was missing in terms of the technical foundational information one should know. So I decided that it was time for me to sort of go back to school, and I wanted to do like a master's, but then I wanted to also work at the same time. So thankfully, a friend told me about, doing master's in Unilag, and it was like a part-time program. So I was like, that will fit quite nicely into my, routine. So I picked up that one and started my master's over a period of time. I learned a lot about the information technology foundational networking experience that I needed to complement the cybersecurity experience that I was now, gaining in my job. So that was really amazing for me. After MSc and continued working at InterSwitch. A point came where, I wanted more, I wanted bigger challenges and all of those things. I guess it was a time when a lot of people started relocating to different parts of the world. People were relocating to Canada. I didn't really want to, relocate. I didn't have plans to relocate, but I knew I wanted maybe like to explore another environment. And in my role at InterSwitch at the time, I worked with quite a number of consultants from the big fours and from not big fours. They would come in at every point in time, maybe like on a quarterly or on a yearly basis to come assess, audit, and the like. So I used to support, that piece of work in making sure that evidences are ready for maybe like ISO 27001 or PCI and the like. So I sort of gained insight as to what their day-to-day sort of looked like, even though I wasn't working for their organization. But moving on, started applying for, a new job, and was actively searching. I made the most of LinkedIn, but I think it'd be good to stress the part of paying a lot of attention to my CV. I wanted to be sure that my CV would get me through the door, because one thing is for you to be applying for jobs, another thing is for you to actually get shortlisted. So I spent a bit of time working on my CV, and I also requested some people that were more experienced than I was at the time to share their CVs with me, and they were kind enough to share their CVs with me. I used that to structure my CV, and once I was done updating, I sent it back to them. They were also kind enough to review my CV and give me feedback, which I addressed, and I used that CV to apply. I got a lot of rejection emails. I was applying locally and internationally. I got quite a number of jobs locally, if I'm going to be candid, but for the international ones, I got a lot of rejections. But me being me, I see, every rejection as a redirection in the right direction. So I kept applying because I knew that I only needed 1 yes. And long story short, I got the opportunity with EY, and I guess the rest is history. So I've been with EY for 5 years now and counting, and I joined as a senior consultant, and I've been able to progress up onto senior manager. So that's a bit about my experience in terms of working in industry and consulting. So what I'm going to be doing today is pretty much just share the tips that has helped me so far that I think would be valuable to yourself, and then take that and do more research and also keep learning. Will help you succeed in whatever you choose to do. Now, my focus today is going to be on cybersecurity, but I guess even if you're not into cybersecurity right now, there will be tips that you can also still make the most of. In terms of certifications, I have a bunch of certifications across ISO 27001, 22301. I won't go through all the list, but I think what's calling out here is I've got certifications across both information technology as well as operational technology, and also across technical and non-technical certifications. And with that, what it helps me with is having a good understanding of the entire domains of cybersecurity. We keep learning. I still take exams every now and then, and maybe courses here and there. But again, I've been able to acquire this over the course of, I think, 10 years plus. So, and I think it's worth mentioning too that I did not pass. There's some exams that I did not pass the first time around. So, for example, CISSP, the first time I wrote CISSP, I failed it. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because what that did for me was it introduced me to cybersecurity very, very early. So it helped me understand all the various domains within security. And with that, I knew the areas that I was sort of good at. I knew the areas that I needed to improve on. I also knew the areas that I really enjoyed, doing. And of course, I prepared better next time, and I approached it in a more strategic way rather than from a technical perspective to like a risk management perspective. And I think that's why I would encourage a lot of people not to miss the session that Mr. Makai has put together for March. I think it's going to be very valuable for you. So that's on certifications. Moving on to cybersecurity frameworks. I've got experience across, ISO 27001. For NIST, I didn't do much of NIST back in Nigeria. I knew about it, but I wasn't like deploying, using it for assessment and the likes. But having joined the Big Four, it's something that I use on a very regular basis now. So I've got experience across CREST, then ISA 62443, as well as PCI DSS, just to mention a few. So that's me. On a lighter note, I thought I would, had my hobbies here. So it's not just work, work, work for me. Work-life balance is important here. So in terms of hobbies, I think it's clear to see that I love reading. I love dancing too. I love photography. I love going to the movies. And of course, karaoke. I'm not in the choir. My voice is not like the best when it comes to singing, but I just enjoy the whole vibe of going for karaoke. And last but not the least that I have here is swimming. I'm still a learner. I started learning this, I think, 2 years ago, going at my own pace, but I think it's something that I've come to enjoy. So that's a bit about me in terms of introduction. I guess I have about less than 40 minutes for this session, but we'll see how quickly we can move. I've got like 10 major key points that I would like to touch on in terms of the tips to share with us this evening. Okay, so then going into industry cybersecurity. Now, this is just one slide on this topic, but the focus for this evening is mainly on, tips to help you switch successfully from industry to consulting. But I think it'll be useful to sort of start from the very basis as to understanding what industry means, right? And we might be in different phases in our career right now. We might have people who perhaps are not yet in consulting, but they desire to work in consulting someday. I think you're going to find valuable tips on this session today. There are people who perhaps already work in consulting, but perhaps it's early days for you. And then there are also people who have been in consulting for a while. I think there are a couple of things you can relate to in terms of what I'm going to be sharing today. And last but not the least, chances could be that you're just curious. You just want to know what we do in cybersecurity. What is industry cybersecurity? What is consulting cybersecurity? And yeah, I think you'll find something for yourself too. All right, without further ado, so industry cybersecurity, and I'm going to use my experience pretty much for this session. So think about me, when I talk about industry, think about me working back in Nigeria at InterSwitch. For me, that meant industry because I was working in a non-consulting organization. So I was employed to be responsible for protecting the organization systems, data, and users on an ongoing basis. So I do the work, the security work for one company. So it's just one company pretty much. You will have to liaise with a lot of stakeholders, obviously, internally and externally in the event where you have consultants come in, to come do like yearly audits. So for example, I'll use PCI DSS. So PCI DSS is more like a data security financial, framework where you need to be compliant, and every year an auditor needs to come in to reassess that, you're monitoring, you're implementing, you're doing everything based on the controls. And they need to liaise with someone internally. So typically to be somebody from the information security team that would be nominated to work closely with them to support them with all the evidences they need, all the meetings they probably need to have, and the various stakeholders they need to interact with. So that's sort of the kind of work you would do in industry. Again, this is at a very high level, but I just thought I won't assume that everybody understands what industry means and what consulting means. So moving on, I guess this is where we spend the bulk of our time, and this is introducing consulting cybersecurity, right? And this means, working for a firm that sells cybersecurity expertise to clients. So you can see clients, that's a lot of organizations that you're going to be helping in terms of their cybersecurity needs. It could be to advise, it could be to assess, it could be to guide other organizations in cybersecurity, and it's usually for a limited time. We'll get into the details later. So industry, you're working for one organization. Consulting, you're helping so many companies improve their cybersecurity. So that's how you know the difference. So yeah, we then go into the tips for success in consulting. I don't have all the tips here, but I've tried to sort of summarize it into like 10 key points that I think you might find valuable as you go on in your career, or, looking ahead as to when you want to join consulting, and things that can help you hit the ground running. The first point I'll touch on is mindset shift. Now, in industry, remember that we talked about cybersecurity within just one organization, pretty much, right? So it's just one organization. You might be responsible for ISO 27001, making sure that, it's implemented accurately. You have all the controls, all the scopes that are in all the scopes that have been agreed are in place. policies and procedures are being reviewed, on time, and also you socializing that with all the respective stakeholders, and all the respective stakeholders can also attest to the fact that they have read the policy or the procedures or the guidance, and they, agree with everything that is there and agree to comply with it. When it comes to consulting, it's a bit different in the sense that you must get to do like a good and a fast job across multiple clients. So pretty much you're going to be working with several clients. It might not be at the same time, right? Depending on your rank. So typically, and it varies from organization to organization. Again, in some consulting firm, you have maybe like consultants, then you have senior consultants, you have manager, you have senior manager, you have director, you have partners, right? And so you might be working across different clients, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. So there's that mindset shift, right? So you're not just going to be working for one organization. One thing that is worth calling out here again is, so for example, when I was working with InterSwitch, I had, all the time in the world to sort of really understand the end-to-end business that we do, not just from cybersecurity perspective, but also just understanding the different departments, what everyone does, and all of those things. When it comes to consulting, right? So say I'm working with a power and utility sector for the next 6 weeks, you won't just learn about the work you're delivering for that client. You also want to understand their industry, right? You want to do your research, you want to understand their pain points. And after 6 weeks, say you have delivered a piece of work, if it was to be like a cybersecurity maturity assessment, you've completed that. Your next engagement could be with maybe like a telecom organization, clients, right? Then you need to switch again, right? It might be the same scope of work, maybe maturity assessment, but you need to really understand that sector to be able to see how you would help that client and the kind of threats and risk that are common to that sector. Now, after doing that, you might move to another sector. So you can see what I'm trying to say in terms of multiple clients, different industries, and just having to be fast in terms of learning and researching and collaborating. So that's the mindset shift that I was talking about. Moving to the point, the next point, which is on communication. Communication is very, very huge in any organization, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say here is in terms of translating technical findings into business impact. Yeah, you would typically have technical stakeholders and maybe not technical stakeholders. You've completed an assessment. You can't assume that everybody will understand the technical terminologies in that report. So you need to be able to structure your report in a way that senior executive can digest, they can see how it directly impacts their business or compliance regulations and the likes. And in your report, you also want to be concise and you want to be very, very structured. Now, it's intentional. Me having a slide for this presentation today is intentional because it's an example of the kind of expectation that people would have of you when you work in consulting, right? For every meeting you're having with your clients, you want to be ready. You want to be sure that you know how to use Microsoft Suite. We'll get there soon, but again, it's just me demonstrating how you're going to be presenting. There's so much more to it, but you need to be able to communicate in a way that your technical stakeholders will understand, as well as your non-technical stakeholders. You might just have 15 minutes with the stakeholders and you want to be sure that you get the most of that session by going straight to the point. Now, if you're with the technical team where they understand issues when it comes to pen testing and the likes, they probably might want your reports in a different format. It might be maybe they have a tool in the organization already that they can leverage. It could be, oh, okay, what are the issues? I don't have time to read this PowerPoint or this PDF document. Can you help summarize this into an Excel sheet? What is the main issue? What are the recommendations? What's the timeline to close this? And they go from there. So that's on communication. The third point here is on, learn to scope and manage time. I talked about, industry and consulting. Consulting in terms of timeline is very, very key in our deliverables. Now, you might just have 5 weeks on a particular engagement. You might have 2 weeks. It varies from client to client. It varies from industry to industry too, and the scope of work. So before we even start the actual implementation of the work, or maybe like a cybersecurity assessment for an organization. There's a lot that goes into that process, right? So say there's a proposal that we need to respond to, right? We respond to the proposal to the clients. Proposals, say the clients have like a major issue, or there's a regulatory requirement that they need to fulfill, right? And they've reached out to us and so many other, companies, maybe other big fours, to respond to the proposal in terms of, do you have the skill sets? Do you have the experience? Can you get this done for us within the time frame? We respond to it and we say, oh yes, we can do it. And eventually say we win the work. Now, after winning the work, you then need to put a contract in place. If you're working in industry, you probably might not necessarily have to, worry too much about contracts as such, depending on your role in the organization. But when you get to the big four, it's something that is so important. You would do it at one point or the other. Even if you are a senior consultant or a manager, you would definitely do it, right? So in the contract is where you're able to define the scope of work, right? Say you're doing OT assessments, operational technology assessment typically would have you traveling to a lot of maybe locations, depending on where the clients have, branches and the likes. So you want to be able to decide with the clients and agree if it is 10 sites that are in scope, if it is 20 sites, all of that is so crucial. So the point here is you need to know what is in scope versus what is out of scope, because that would also help you in your interactions with the various stakeholders you're going to be speaking with in the client environment. Another thing that is very important here is flagging risk early if timelines slip. I'll share my personal experience. When I joined the Big Four back then, coming from industry and maybe like from a technical team and the likes, I was used to, as an engineer, I was an information security engineer when I joined InterSwitch. And as an engineer, you don't dread problems, right? You find a solution. That's why you're there, to fix problem, right? So yeah, what's the problem? Okay, we'll look for a way to solve it and go from there. So I don't take all issues to my line manager every time. I probably would find a solution, take my time and the like. But when I got to the Big Four, I had to unlearn that, because that's not to say you will not take initiative. That's not to say you won't do your research, but you can't afford to waste too much time. So you've been researching a particular issue for like a day or two, and you're not making progress. You're expected to scream, right? Literally scream, reach out to your team, let them know, because somebody else might have the solution of what you're struggling with. So pretty much flag risk early, right? It's better to flag risk early rather than not say anything and then it becomes a bigger issue down the line. I'll move to the next point, which is get comfortable presenting. This one brought me out of my shell. Yeah, I like to work behind the scene, just do my things, get my work done. I don't want to be noticed. But if you're going to be working in consulting, you need to get comfortable presenting, because most of the work that you're going to be doing, you're going to be talking a lot to people's business, right? In the sense that even when we deploy technical tools for our clients, or like we do assessments, PowerPoint, Word documents, project plan, and all of those things are the tools that will help us communicate our findings, our observation, our executive briefing, right? So you go with you have to have your deck ready. You will not work by yourself. You will not work in silo, right? You're going to be working with different teams, and that might change from time to time. But the expectation is you know how to use PowerPoint, you know how to use Word. You're sharing those with your respective, maybe your line manager on time, so that they can review, they can provide comments, you can address the comments. And once everybody is happy internally, has gone through the necessary quality assurance process, then we can then send it to the client as a draft. You give the client the opportunity to also provide their own views, and then you go from there. And that takes us to, I think I've touched on this a few times, just PowerPoint, Microsoft Suite pretty much. One thing that I did before I started working in the Big Four, when I got the job, was I was proactive enough to start researching. I could use PowerPoint, I think the best of us could use Word, Word document, because even when while you were doing your projects in school, then your project and the likes, you would have used PowerPoint, you'd have used Word documents, right, at some point. So it's something that anybody can get on with quite easily. With PowerPoint, it's a little bit different because you would assume that, oh, with PowerPoint, you want to put a lot of text in. A lot of people do not appreciate text. They want graphical representation. They want you to be able to go straight to the point. They don't want people reading your slides pretty much, right? But you want to be able to sort of also still structure the conversation in such a way that it's impactful. So there are a lot of free tools out there. You can leverage YouTube. I think at the time I had subscribed to my LinkedIn Premium, and I saw a couple of training on using PowerPoint. I leverage that, but I know you can also leverage YouTube. And I think the best way to learn is also to try, right? If you have a laptop, just try using your laptop. You keep getting better the more you use it, and get few people to present it to, so that you can also get their feedback. You can implement the feedback, and we go from there. Even me, with my 5 years plus experience in consulting, like Mr. Matthias said, I had my deck ready. We went through some of it. He gave his feedback. I took that on, and yeah, I'm here today. So nobody's an island. You keep learning, and feedback is king. So that's that. I'll go to the next point, which is building reusable assets. So I think this still takes us back to, having templates. You're going to have templates in different forms. It could be Word documents, it could be PowerPoint, depending on the work you're doing. So say you're doing like a cybersecurity maturity assessment, maybe that's the bulk of the work that you do, and you've done it for maybe 5 to 6 clients. The thing is, you're already in your head, you already know what the structure of the report will look like, right? So you don't necessarily have to every time start from scratch. You can always leverage the previous templates that you had, right? But making sure that you sanitize it, you're very careful not, leaking information that are not supposed to be leaked with another client. So you need to be thorough with your work and everything that you do. But again, you don't always have to start from scratch. And also networking is so key. It's so key in consulting, right? You don't work in silo. Somebody, even if you're put on a new engagement that you've never done before, but of course it's still going to have cybersecurity elements in it. Expectation is that you're connecting with your team, right? Somebody out there within your team across the world might have done something similar that you can leverage their knowledge, and you go from there. So that's that about building reusable assets. Moving to the next point, understanding clients, business, and compliance context. So it's not just about, maybe doing an assessment for them or implementing a framework. It's also really understanding what's the driver, what's the motivation, why do they want to do this at this point in time? Sometimes they might know the particular framework they want you to use for them, maybe like NIST or maybe like ISO or maybe ISO 62443. Sometimes you might be the one sort of maybe advising and guiding them, because that's where your specialty comes in, because you are supposed to be advising, right? And just again, reputation is so key. You don't want your client to make it to the news for something bad that has not been done correctly, and vice versa. So really understanding business and compliance context is so key. I'll move to point 7. I'm just conscious of time. So develop client-facing soft skills. We talked about, getting comfortable presenting, and I know that the best of us will not want to present, but I feel like once you do it and you do it over and over again, you get better at it. And you know what? As long as you have prepared, I think you'll be fine. You might make mistakes, but it's fine. It's part of the learning curve. You learn from your mistakes, you pick yourself up, and then, yeah, you get better. So develop client-facing soft skills, like be confident, and clients want you to be confident. Everybody wants you to be confident, but, there are days where you might not really feel confident about yourself. If you think it's a skill gap, assess yourself, be true to yourself. If you need to equip yourself, maybe you need to learn about the subject matter, maybe like AI, maybe anything within cybersecurity, particular topic, maybe like your colleagues are talking about something around data protection, data privacy, and it's not something that there are tools out there, even within your organization, that you can leverage to learn this subject matter. So the more you equip yourself, the more confident you become. And yeah, again, you might have 20 years of experience, you might have 10 years of experience, you might have 5 years of experience, you might know way more than your clients, but there's that balance you need to also put in place, right? You don't want to look or sound arrogant to the people that you are conversing with. So just find the balance. And eventually you want to build trust, right? You want to build the trust of your clients such that, you know, every time that they have a need, you know, you're the first person that comes to their mind. The organization is the first person that comes to their mind. And yeah, it's always a win-win. Moving to the next point, network internally and externally. I think I've said so much about this already in terms of not working in silo. People are generally very helpful. You just need to put time in their diary to connect with them, like genuinely want to understand what other people do on a day-to-day basis, and also share your, because there's always something that you can bring to the table, right? So also share your own experience, also share the areas that you find quite interesting, right? That could land you on a job. And you come in and you're wondering, oh, how do I land my first client work, right? And the fastest way is to do a quality and very thorough work. When your work is of very high standard, people would be referring you, right? And a lot of people just want to work with you. So you do that. It's the same for the clients too. And also make sure that you're someone who is reliable. Let your word be your bond. If you say you're going to get a particular work done Thursday by 4 p.m., even if you can do it 12 p.m. before that 4 p.m., or like if you can do it earlier, is what I'm saying. Just that's how you build your reputation, that you're reliable, and also be helpful, right? Help junior colleagues depending on where you are in your career, help junior colleagues, and also look for ways to sort of support your senior colleagues too, right? To make the work easier for them and be easy to work with. Be a fun person, just be you. And I think that would help you go a long way in your career, whether in consulting or, you know, industry. I think we have 2 more points to go. Point 9, faster pace and more context switching. I think might have touched on this already in terms of multiple clients and multiple deadlines. When I was a senior consultant, and I think perhaps maybe for most organizations in terms of consulting, it might be the same. You tend to work for just one client for from Monday to Friday. So we call it full time on that engagement. So it's just one engagement, it's just one client, and you're supporting them. You might be supporting with other internal initiatives, but as you know, climb the ladder, manager, senior manager, sometimes you might have to work with multiple clients, with multiple deadlines, and you have to ensure that, you know, everything is successful. So it's a lot going on. And aside your client engagement, there's also the internal initiative. You're also going to be supporting proposals. Expectation is also that you are transferring knowledge because you're probably the SMR in a particular subject matter, and people turn to you, or, you know, you make yourself available also to share your knowledge with the team because we want to all grow together. Last but not the least, which is keep your consulting and technical edge. It's a busy work. It's very fast paced. However, you need to be intentional about your learning. Most organizations would typically have a learning platform for free where you can go and, you know, check out consulting skill sets, those soft skills. I still take courses every now and then, and by virtue of you working for a particular organization like in the Big Four, there are also set trainings that you have to go through on a yearly basis. Leverage all of this and just keep equipping yourself and also learn from the best. I have colleagues that I work with that, you know, talking is so natural for them. I would do all the work behind the scene, the deck and all of those things. I love doing all of that. But again, because I've had to shadow them, it's interesting that now I could speak for hours, right? Yeah, so iron sharpeneth iron, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, keep knowledge and certifications ongoing, put a timeline to your certifications, and make sure that they're constantly in view for you. I guess that's where I'm going to stop today. And so those are like the key points in terms of things that have sort of helped me in succeeding in my consulting career so far. We would get to questions soon, but I just thought, let me finish my slide so that I can take this off and I can see you all and go from there. So should you want to follow me, I thought I'll put my LinkedIn profile here. So Adenrele O is my name on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And those who know me, very closely. You know that I love quotes, and this one in particular. And there are days where, you know, you might feel tired, you know. I think this just helps me and just keeps me motivated, and also to also challenge myself, right? And it says impossible is just a big word thrown around by people who find it easier to live in the world they have been given than to explore the power they have to change it. So you have the power to change whatever situation you are in, right? Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration. It's not saying, oh, impossible is not impossible. No, you have to put in the work. It's not, it's a dare, pretty much. Impossible is potential. Impossible is nothing, and it's from Muhammad Ali. So thank you. I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to share some tips that would help you in your journey going forward, and you know, share useful tips, changing your mindset. I think that's where the work would start from, right? From working in one particular organization to working with a firm that supports a lot of clients in terms of their cybersecurity needs. Yeah, I think that's about it. I would hand over to Mr. Makaya to help me with the
Yeah.
questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, no, I can't see your screen
Okay.
anymore. So I will,
Yeah.
I'll probably wait for a question. I can't see any question yet in the chat. Thank you so much, Adenrele. Thank you. No surprises. Thank you. As expected, you hit the point. I will come back to some questions, just interaction, just to share from your experience in working in the industry and the things that actually were driving you to be on point. You know, I remember our meetings in ISO 27001. You are ready with your presentation. So
Never caught on
I just
fresh.
wanted to share, yeah, but I'll come back, but I wanted to share what you think people can do that, what do you think they can do, the mindset they need to incorporate right now before that change or that expectation that they have materializes. The second thing is around people that are not in cyber. So some members of our community are not in cyber currently, but they want to
Okay.
transition into cyber. What
Okay.
would be your recommendation of what they can start doing to get themselves ready? So I'll come back to for those questions. And if you have any question, please drop it. And again, you have again, you have used your time in a very efficient manner. Thank you. So we have more time to have conversation. All right. So on the 19th of this month, we will be having this conversation. So I reached out to 5 people that have recently passed the CISSP exam. And if you are in cybersecurity or you want to get into cybersecurity, they call this exam BEAST, right? It's regarded as the most difficult cybersecurity exam out there. So I reached out to 5 people that have passed it, and I thought that we could hear their success story and people can take lessons from those stories. And thankfully, all of the people that I reached out to accepted. And on the 19th, we'll be having a chat, just people sharing their story of how they were able to pass the exam. I wrote the exam and I didn't know that I was going to pass, because you are picking an answer and you're asking yourself, is this correct? You know, is this correct? And you just pick one and move on. But people will be sharing their stories and hopefully you get motivated. And this is actually one in a series of success stories that we're going to be having. We're going to touch on CISM. Yesterday I saw someone who passed CISA, and she was recognized as one of the global high score in CISA. So I reached out to her that she should come and share her stories. She said she's shy. And I said, I have a shy audience too, so don't worry. But anyway, I hope she accepts so that we can learn from people that have passed the exam. The next thing here is, so we have seen people who are not in cyber, want to get into cyber, but they don't have experience. And one way I have seen that they can is that they build proof of their knowledge. So we will be kicking off in April what I call building proofs. And we will be looking at 7 projects that I think are foundational to getting into cyber, and also preparing yourself a good environment for you to practice some things that you cannot afford to go and practice it on a live environment. So you build a lab, and we have selected these 7 areas that we will find facilitator to come and then share with us. It's going to be a practical. So first we lay the foundation for theoretical aspect, then we go into the practical element. Now, the next task for me is to look for facilitators. So by Monday, I will be begging, as I will always do. I beg people a lot. I go into their DM and I start begging them. So, but we've gotten a kind of goodwill out there that people have been positive to, and a lot of people want to help. So I will be asking for facilitator from next week so that we can start, get facilitator ready, then start asking for candidates to apply, and we select. And by April, we're going to do it for 2 months. And the fact that it is all 7 here doesn't mean that everyone will be selected for 7. What we are trying to do is to make sure that people have focus. So we have combined some of the projects into security analysts, maybe 2 or 3 of the areas you will be put in a group for security analysts, and you will focus on courses or lab that are related to security analysts. If you are in GRC, we will do the same thing. If you are in engineering, we will do the same thing. If you are in offensive security, we will do the same thing. So we'll just make sure that people at least have a collection of projects that can help them prove that they are competent in the area they are looking for opportunities. So even if you are not in cyber right now, your lab can speak for you, and you can speak about it when you go for interview. All right, I think that's about it. So today is February 28th, the last in the of February, the last day of the month. We've had 4 sessions or 5 sessions now. No, 4, 5, with then really completing that number. So speakers of March is ready. So, and it is International Women's Month or Day. So we have 2 women, 2 ladies that have reached out to, and they are waiting for. So after this meeting, I will be contacting them on the topic, and then hopefully you will have. I think we have last week, last edition we had women. On 2 weeks ago we had a lady. Today a lady. So next edition on the 14th of March we have a lady, and March also will have a lady, because over time people have been asking, why is it all men that you are inviting? So women are having like 2 months stretch, and we'll be looking at topics that will promote women in cybersecurity in March. All right, let's go back to our question, Adenrele. So the first and the second question, if you can just help us touch on it.
Yeah, I'll start with the time management one, because it's also a great skill to have in consulting. So typically you have, like, people are extremely busy, your clients are busy, you're speaking with C-suites, you probably would only get 30 minutes in their diary. You need to make the most of that 30 minutes. So you need to constantly pace yourself and put a structure in place in terms of time management. So the more you do it, I think it just becomes part of you. You just know when the time is going to be up, even without checking the time. So one skill set to also learn, and just respect people's time. I would answer the second question first, and I think that's about what people need to do to get started in cybersecurity. Literally, just go for the building proof course that Mr. Makaya is, bringing up very soon. Leverage every opportunity. Some of us, maybe not necessarily me, I know when some people started their career in cybersecurity, they didn't have a lot of forums, right, where they could learn cybersecurity, where they could bounce ideas, and get people's opinion and support. So I would say, don't take these sessions lightly, even though they might be free. Seize it, make the most of it. maybe another thing is start out with cybersecurity, certifications. I know they're expensive. I was talking to Mr. Bakaya the other day in terms of when I first wrote CISSP, and I wrote it back in Nigeria, and I paid Naira for it. I didn't mind. I didn't pass it. I didn't give up, right? I saved up and I wrote the exam again, right? So the point is, you're going to have to invest in yourself, right? And you might not see the return on investment immediately. It might be over the years, but it's not going to be a waste, is what I'm saying here. What else? I think that's pretty much it, in all fairness, because you have loads of sessions that you've conducted with people who have been in this space for a very, very long time. Even I still go through your videos on YouTube. Yeah, I keep learning. You don't stop learning. So if I'm doing that with my 10 plus experience, I think we should all do the same too, right? And what else? If you're giving a piece of work to do, right? And I think my godmother gave me this advice years back when I was going to start out working. And she said, no matter the work they give you, no matter how small, or you might think, oh, it's not so big, it's just a small piece of work. Maybe it's just to even take notes in meetings, right? Make sure the notes you're taking is of very high standard. Make sure that the formatting is top notch. Make sure that you're using the right, the right English and the like. So one thing that I had to do when I relocated to the UK was to unlearn, right? Back in Nigeria and in some countries, and again, I still have to switch on different acts. If I'm working with an American company, I have to use American English. When I'm working with, you know, British, right? I have to use British English. Something as small as organization could trigger somebody, the Z and the S. It's very minute, but it is huge. So if you dot your I's and you cross your T's, and you take a meeting note and it is top notch, you draft your work to a very high standard. Trust me, you'll be invited to even bigger rooms. You'll be given bigger and more exciting opportunities. So whatever your hand finds to do it excellently well, is what I'm saying here.
Excellent. Adenrele, thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And I just need to also disclose that I've got you are loved, right? We've got a lot of interswitch ex-interswitch also, and some still in interswitch that are on the call. So I guess they missed you and they wanted to hear you speak. I just said I
Thank
should
you all for
mention that.
joining and for coming to support me.
Yeah, they love you actually. They love you. So I was seeing as many as I've seen them joining, and so they love you. I just said I should mention that. There's a
I
question.
love you all right back.
There's a question in the chat.
How do you manage cultural differences and personality with global clients, considering the short timeline of understanding? Yeah, man, it wasn't easy, if I'm going to be candid. But I guess for me, one thing that I do is I observe. When I get into a new environment, I observe, right? I'm not changing myself, but I'm just observing the environment. I left my home country to another country, right? It's going to be a different ball game if they leave their own country to our own country. So I observe, I try to understand. I'm still myself, right? I bring my whole self to work, right? I love who I am. I love what I do and the likes. But I guess with time, and I guess it also goes back to what I said in terms of things as small as you think is small but is major, in terms of getting formatting right, in terms of spelling organization correctly, right? One thing that also helps, right, in the big four, I mean, I can only speak for my own organization right now, is you get to have a counselor, right? You have somebody that is also helping you to shape your career, not just your career, and also sort of helping you in terms of, your well-being, right? Because we also track our leave and also interactions with people. A safe place where you can go to. So say you have a particular thing that is bothering you, or that you think is not appropriate. There are different forums where you can raise different things that you might be facing. So there are different communities too. I think it's worth touching on that one. When I joined my company, I got to know about in a Black community. I joined that community, right? Because there are valuable insights you can learn from them. You don't necessarily have to experience the same thing somebody else have gone through and they've learned. So you can learn from them. So I go for forums like that, right? I prioritize it. I know we're extremely busy. So I learn from people. I think that's what has helped me. I'm still learning, if I'm going to be candid, but I guess it's more of making sure that you are working very closely with your counselor and they can support you where required. It's a journey, right? And I might not know the specifics in terms of what exactly you're asking, but I'm happy to connect offline if it's something you wanted to discuss in private.
All right, thank you for offering that window. Okay, there's someone that wants to connect with you on LinkedIn, so I think you can search for Adenrele O. You will find, or if you check the post I put up on the group for this meeting, I tagged Adenrele there, so you can connect with her there. Adenrele, thank you so much. I think you have used best use of our time. We try to finish at 1 hour. So I don't want to say 7 because it could be 7 here, it could be 7 in another, 6 in another country. So we've basically covered today's topic. So thank you everyone for joining. All our InterSwitch, ex-InterSwitch colleagues, thank you for supporting your girl. And well, thanks for joining Cybersecurity Mentoring. In case you are joining us for the first time, Cybersecurity Mentoring Group is a platform for experts in cybersecurity, professionals in cybersecurity, and beginners, and even non-cybersecurity professionals that is thinking, I've heard that that field is milking money. I want to go milk money. So we have all of them in the community. We have a LinkedIn page, which you can follow. We also have a WhatsApp group. And we, from time to time, organize programs, like I've gone through earlier, programs to help people gain skills that is needed in the industry. And all of the programs that we bring up are things that we have seen. So again, we do some research. We look at jobs in that employers put out there, and then we look at what are the common tools or common frameworks or common competencies or skills that they are asking for, and then we package that into a group, into a training, and then share with people. Again, this is all powered by the free will of cybersecurity professionals on LinkedIn. Some of them I have never met. Some we've worked together, like Adenrele today, that offer their time freely to support the community. So we do not charge our audience, because the people that are providing that competencies are not asking for. And I'm hoping one day we find a way to reward them through sponsorship. But for now, that's how we have been running the cybersecurity community. So if you think you know someone who you think can add value to the community, please reach out to me, and I've got the goodwill to approach anybody in the name of Cybersecurity Mentoring Group for them to either appear or come run a program for us. And like I said earlier, someone will be running AI securities sometime in March. And if you're not in our group, because we try to prioritize sharing information in that group. And once we share in that group, after some hours, we then go to the public. So if you're not in that group, you can find us on LinkedIn, Cybersecurity Mentoring Group. I think I have it here so that I can, Cybersecurity Mentoring Group here. Yeah, you can find us here and follow, so that when we drop, you will be able to be among the first. The last course we ran was application security, which ended today. It was a 4-week course, 8 classes. We were oversubscribed. We had to shut it down after 2 days. So from time to time, we will have those kind of ads, and the earlier people apply, the better. So if you are in the community, you have a first mover advantage, and you can lock in your space. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. I will be coming again on the 14th of March. Today or by latest tomorrow, this recording will be available on our LinkedIn page. And by Monday, we will start conversation with our next speaker, who will be welcoming on the 14th of March. It's a lady, it's an International Women's Day or month, and we decide that it's more appropriate that we bring a lady to come talk to us on an interesting topic in cybersecurity. The same thing we are extending to on the 28th of March also, to bring a lady to come talk to us on something interesting. Thanks everyone for joining. I will see you again. We can connect online on LinkedIn, and hope to catch up with you soon. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye for now.